Imagine a battleship of the Dreadnought class. Now, imagine burying that ship deep inside the earth. 45 massive fortresses. 100 kilometers of underground subway tunnels. Enough concrete to build a highway from Paris to Moscow. History calls it a failure, but engineers know the truth. Technically, it was perfect. June 14, 1940. German officers at the Eiffel Tower. The world outside had collapsed. But 400 kilometers away, in Fort Schoenenberg, a chef was cooking dinner. The electricity was on. The guns were greased. We built an object that outlived its own country. Today on WarBlueprint Intel, how does perfection become a trap? To understand Maginot, forget the maps of 1940. Look at the graveyards of 1918. World War I killed 1.3 million young Frenchmen. For a nation of 40 million, this was not a tragedy. This was a genetic catastrophe. By the 1930s, France faced the hollow years. They had physically run out of men. Calling the line cowardice is a mistake. Like blaming an amputee for using a crutch. The Maginot Line was a concrete prosthetic for the army. André Maginot's solution was cold mathematics. Replace flesh with concrete. Create a force multiplier, 1 to 100. The budget was 3 billion francs. The cost of 15,000 tanks. But they paid with money, because paying with blood was no longer an option. Let's start with depth. The major forts went down 7 stories underground. 30 meters of concrete and earth to withstand any known shell of that time. The lifeline was the narrow-gauge electric railway system. Electric trains delivered ammunition right to the lifts leading to the guns. The anti-gas defense created overpressure inside the fort. Air was constantly blown outwards, keeping the gas away. The crown jewel of engineering was the retractable turret. It rose, fired, and vanished in a second. It was a deadly game of whack-a-mole for the Wehrmacht artillery. The enemy shell would only hit the flat, angled dome. The armor was so thick, it could withstand the 420 millimeters Big Bertha. Final verdict: the Maginot Line was impenetrable. It worked perfectly as an engineering miracle. If the system was so perfect, why did it fail? Look at the map. The heavy fortifications abruptly stopped at the Belgian border. Critics call this stupidity. The true reasons were geology and budget exhaustion. France simply ran out of cash to continue building to the coast. It was not a failure. It was a strategy. The Maginot was the shield. The goal: to force the Germans to attack where they were expected, in Belgium. Where the sword, the mobile army, was waiting. But the French were expecting a war based on the 1914 playbook. They deemed the Ardennes forest impenetrable for tanks. The real mistake was speed, a failure of kinetic assessment. French troops moved on trucks. The Germans moved in panzers. The race was lost before it started. As French divisions moved into Belgium, Guderian cut behind them. Maginot watched the east. The enemy was already in the west. After France fell, the Germans found a complete, colossal infrastructure in their rear, one that surpassed any of their own. The Maginot Line was never breached. It was simply occupied by German garrisons and immediately put into service for the Wehrmacht. At its peak, the line absorbed over 1.5 million cubic meters of concrete and 150,000 tons of steel. By capturing these structures, the Germans gained not just warehouses, but an unbreakable logistic chain. The Germans utilized the deep forts for storing components of long-range and rocket weapons, including parts for the V weapons. But the most bitter irony of this colossal project played out in 1944. as the American Third Army under General Patton pushed east through France. They had to neutralize pockets of resistance within the Maginot Line, but from the west, the wrong side. German forces used the fortifications to slow the Allied advance, as every fort became a localized, impregnable bastion. Serious fighting was localized, but garrisons had to be forced out by specialized engineering units, wasting valuable days. The failure was not technical. Maginot was brilliant in concrete and steel, but failed to adapt to the enemy's rapidly changing tactics. Today, the Maginot Line is a monument to the immobility of thought in an era of rapid change. The concrete legacy. Even after the war, the huge volume of steel and non-ferrous metals became a strategic resource. Many forts remain abandoned, but this wall of fear and anticipation found its surprising, peaceful use. The underground, stable climate proved ideal for growing mushrooms and aging high-end wines. Others have become museums, allowing visitors to see the mechanisms of the very artillery systems and turrets that were never needed in 1940. And the concrete itself, saturated with history, is still considered a prime example of brutalist military architecture. The concrete wall, born of stagnation of thought, now serves science, tourism, and agriculture. The Maginot Line was bypassed, but it was not breached. The defense withstood all attacks. The fort garrisons knew they were bypassed, but they kept fighting. They only stopped when General Vagon issued the surrender order. It was not a surrender after defeat, but a signed order from the government. The Maginot Line was a triumph of engineering and a catastrophe of doctrine. They won the Battle of the Blueprints, but lost the Battle of the Calendar. We commit the same error today. We fight the ghosts of the past. We spend resources perfecting the tactics that won yesterday, ignoring the brutal reality. The rules of the game have changed. The main lesson is simple. The Maginot Line was not defeated. It was rendered obsolete. The most dangerous wall is the one built in the mind.